So we're looking at how to do the bank reconciliation adjustments that we have here from the 2020 final accounts. So basically just to go through the theory of it. When I look at my trial balance, I'm looking for a figure here for bank and it's in the credit column. So that means we have a liability. We owe money to the bank. So minus 48,800. Okay, now when I receive a bank statement, so a letter from the bank every month, it's going to tell me how much money is in my bank, and that should agree. My bank statement should say I have minus 48,800 as well, but it doesn't. So it says I have an overdraft of 32 grand. So it says that overdraft means minus 32 grand. So those two figures don't agree. So what I'll have to do is go and find out who's wrong in each case of these four adjustments that you're given here. Who is wrong? Who is missing information? Is either me or the bank. So from my point of view, I think I have minus 48. From the bank's point of view, they think I have minus 32. So if there's things the bank didn't know about, I'll need to take that into account, either adding it or taking away from the 32. Things I didn't know about or things I misrecorded, I'll have to use that to adjust the bank figure. But also I'll probably end up having to adjust other accounts as well. So I'll list those underneath it. Okay, so that's the theory behind it. But obviously when I'm finished at the end, I should end up with a corrected balance for both, which is the same. So I'm just going to put down corrected balance. So that means that, for both of them, for me and the bank, are both going to have the same figure at the end. Okay, so first one, credit transfer 1,000 have been received in respect of a debt of 1,500 previously written off as bad. So that means I have a bad debt. I had a bad debt, which I'm now cancelling, and the debtors agreed to pay the remainder in 2 months. So, who didn't know about this? Well, credit transfer is when money is lodged directly into a bank account. So I found out when I read my bank statement, so I didn't know about it. So I'm going to add the credit transfer. So that's going to be plus 1,000. Okay, so what else do I need to change? Well, I need to adjust my bad debt. So bad debts is an expense. So I need to cancel the expense. So I previously written off an expense of 1,500. So that expense is a debit. So I need to cancel that by going credit. So less 1,500. Okay. So whatever figure I have for bad debts, so if I just look up here, do I have bad debts? It's not mentioned up here, so therefore I'll have a new bad debt recovered. So because it's a credit, it's going to be an income, okay? If I already had a bad debt mentioned in my trial balance, I just reduce it, but I don't have it. So because it's a credit, I'm just going to call it an income. So that's bad debt recovered. Now I also have my debtors. Normally what I would say is if you're doing all of your adjustments, you go back up and have a look. Are there any of the adjustments here that affect my debtors? And I don't think there is. So you look at your previous adjustments first and see. But my debtors at the moment is 97.5. And that debtors is a debit. So 97,500. Now I'm going to reinstate the missing money. So there's €500 of a debt that I'm going to add on. So we'll add a debit of 500. Okay, so that means that we're going to get a corrected figure of 98 grand. So that's the figure that we now have for debtors. And that's that. Okay, moving on. Check for 16.5 issued to supplier had been entered in the books as 15.6. So that means I made a mistake. So the bank is right. So the bank has handled that check correctly. I haven't. So I need to fix that. So when I pay a check, that means creditors need to change. Now, creditors would have been up here. I would have changed creditors already. So we'll have a new creditors figure from note number 2. So you go back up and have a look at it. So I'm not going to do the calculation for that. I'm just going to say, well, what should have happened to creditors? So when I wrote a check, that means I owe the creditor less. but I didn't put enough lesses in, so I need to have another 900 that I'll take away from creditors. So less or DR of 900. Okay, so that means that you'll end up with a new creditors figure. Okay. Again, you start off with what we have in note number 2, which I haven't dealt with yet. So we'll get a new creditors figure. And that means that in my bank records, when I write a check, I'll be taking money away from my bank, and I need to take away a further €900. And that's 900, so that's minus. Next one, number 3. Again, who is wrong first? So check each supplier been returned. This has been not entered. So that means I wrote a check, I put it into the accounts, and I would have reduced how much money I owe my creditors. But that's been returned. So maybe there was something wrong with the check. It wasn't written out properly or whatever. So I have to add more money to my creditors. Okay. So I add to creditors. Okay, I need to add to them further 2,500. So that means my new creditors figure, which was whatever number I had here before, is going to go up by that. And that means because the check, so check, when I write a check, that means I have less money in the bank. But when that check isn't valid, I now have more money in the bank than I thought. So I'll add creditors. And the last one, check for advertising and not presented for payment. So that means I recorded this, right? And the bank doesn't know anything about that, so I'll take it away. So less advertising. But the advertising was done right, my records were right, just the bank didn't know about it, and it's 14,200. So that means the corrected balance in the bank account is 46.2. And if I just do mine, I should get the same number. Yeah, so that's the figure then. So I'll just draw that. So that's the figure I'm going to put in for bank when I go to do my current liabilities, because I owe money. The new debtors figure we have is there. And there's a new creditors figure, whatever the number that I get down the bottom here, that's what goes in there. And what else? Oh, and we also have our bad debt income, bad debt recovered.